Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our 12th webinar of the TAM R&D webinar series. The topic for today's webinar is architecture overview of NSXT 3.0 and what is new in 3.0 version. So NSXT 3.0 was released 2 to 3 months back, and since there are a lot of changes in the architecture from NSXV to NSXT, and a lot of organizations have already started to migrate from V to T, and some are planning to migrate from V to T. We thought of doing a architecture overview session for all the TAM customers. So today we have Saurabh Kalra and Ujjwal Gaurav. They're both from NSX engineering team based out of Pune. They will be delivering this webinar. Ujjwal will help us with the Q&A. So if you have any questions during the webinar, you can use the Q&A window at the bottom to put your questions, and Ujjwal will help answer those questions. We are also recording this webinar, so get in touch with your respective TAMs to get the recording after the session, and also share it with your colleagues and friends who were not able to make it to this webinar. So by default, we are putting everyone on mute. If you have any questions, use the Q&A window, and we will try to unmute everyone in the last 5 to 10 minutes, where you can unmute yourself. You'll get an option to unmute yourself, and then you can also ask the question directly to the presenter. Yeah. So I think we are good. I will hand it over to Saurabh now.
Thanks, Nitin, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks, Ujjwal, in advance for helping us for all the Q&A. So let's get started. So basically, whenever somebody talks about something, what we do, we go to Google and check what Google is saying. And when I do Google search on NSX, apart from VMware NSX solution, what I see is NSX sports car. Wish I could talk about this, but this is not our agenda today. What we're going to talk about is the VMware NSX, the next best thing. So we'll try to cover the architecture and the key features and how the solution compared to NSXV looks compared to NSXT. And we'll go and touch some areas about the federation. We have more details that we want to talk, but we'll see if we get the time to talk about that today, or maybe we can discuss that in the future webinar. So as we all know, vSphere, earlier NSX solution was tightly coupled to the vSphere, and vSphere you could be running in your branch office or in a cloud environment. But as we are evolving, we are trying to decouple NSX from the ESX, which means we want to ensure that NSX can span across different type of hypervisors, and it's not just decoupled with the vCenter environment. And as you see, what has happened, there are different type of workloads, which are like virtual machines, container, bare metal. And in the last decade, what has happened is, the magnitude of options that people have, they can run apps anywhere, either on the cloud, and users have lots of options for connectivity and data. Earlier in a data center networking, it used to confine to a set of walls where you know what the hardware that we're buying, how we're deploying, and who is using what. And right now, anyone having an access to a credit card can go and deploy an app and start working. What that has led to is, any startup, or they have reduced the cost of innovation for that, and they're coming up with the new prototypes and applications without the need of buying so much hardware and worrying about how to manage that. So it has led to a virtual cloud network, where we see most of the organization now are in the mid of that. It's not that every workload is on the cloud. They have their on-site, on-prem applications, which are legacy applications or something running on the vSphere or something running on the bare metal. And then they have the new applications, the modern applications, which are running on the cloud. So that's how we're trying to protect, this tie it together, and we call it virtual cloud network. And we have a management layer or a clear visibility using another solution called VRNI. Sorry. And with NSX, we have a full approach, like the end-to-end approach for the data center networking, starting from switching to routing to firewall, IDS, IPS, load balancer, service monitoring, everything is part of the solution. Like if you compare, like if you do something similar just for the VM workloads, you have to go for a different set of solutions from different vendors, and then you need to work on their interoperability, whether they'll talk to each other, whether you can do some automation around it. So with NSX, you need not to worry about having different type of workloads and the different functions or the features required in the data center networking. You have everything from switching to analytics, and you can automate, like if this workloads gets deployed, punch in this routing, punch in this firewall rules, punch in the load balancer. So everything is available and is integrated. You don't have to work with different vendors and solutions altogether. It makes the management very easy. That's what I'm trying to explain. So moving on to the architecture. So the NSX, there are three planes: data plane, control plane, and the management plane. Where NSX manager is like sits on top, or you can say the entry point to the system. You can connect it with the vCenters. It can connect to up to 16 vCenters now, and you can connect it with your container environments like cloud management portals, or using an NSX container plugin. You can also connect it with Kubernetes or OpenShift environments. And the database, we'll talk more about the NSX manager. And then there is a control cluster. This is a 3-node control cluster, which is scalable, and it maintains the dynamic and the runtime state of your network environment. Even if your data path goes away, even if your control plane goes away, like if there is a failure in the control plane, the data path is not impacted. It does not come in the data path. It is just maintain the runtime information. It punches in the firewall, the firewall rules. It punches in the forwarding tables. It maintains the topology information basically. And the data plane can be, we have different kind of data paths. It could be our hypervisors, which we call transport nodes. They're running a specific modules, NSX modules called NSX virtual switch or NVDS is running in that. And in case of KVM, there is also a version of NVDS running, which is based on Open vSwitch. And we can expand it to other hypervisors also in future. And we are adding more and more hypervisor support with every release. And then in the data path, we have NSX Edge VMs, which are, you can say the workloads which run a number of networking and core services which cannot be distributed across the hypervisor, and they're deployed in form of clusters. It could be, so that there's a pool of capacity available for that. Looking more into detail of NSX manager, it's like your entry point. You can use a UI. You can connect it to your another environments to take the input. You can use the API to get the information. Anything you push to NSX manager is basically your intent. It's a configuration that gets stored in the database. And since it's in a cluster form, all the information is synced immediately. You can use, any appliance to check what the configuration is and what's missing. It's not like you can configure from one and it's not available on the second. It's in a matter of seconds, less than seconds, it's available across all the nodes. So you can fetch the information, you can see the information. So that intent is saved, but that does not ensure that, everything, like if you have configured routing from the user interface, it's actually got implemented. So that's where the control plane kicks in. You configure it from the control manager cluster. It sends it to the controller cluster, which then sends it the configuration in the format understood by the transport nodes and push it down in the data path engine. The control cluster gets the information back from the transport nodes, which helps the manager, see the whole topology and how the network looks like. And the control plane is totally decoupled from it does not interfere directly in the data path. So even if the control cluster goes down because of XYZ reason, your data path keeps working. And whenever it comes back, it gets the configuration again from the NSX manager and push it down again. And control, you can say the control plane is divided into two parts. One we call CCP, central control plane. These are basically 3 nodes that I'm talking about, 3 in the VM form factor for the scalability and availability. And then there is a local control plane, which is running on every transport node, whether it could be ESX, KVM, or an edge node, which basically receives a configuration from the control cluster and also sends information back to the control cluster. Talking about the transport nodes, whether in ESX, if it's an ESX transport node or a hypervisor, KVM hypervisor based transport node, both have a local control plane which receives a configuration and a management plane agent which sends the information to the manager cluster about any problems or any issues or the statistics or the packets that are actually traversing the network. So LCP basically is punching your firewall, routing and everything, and all the encapsulation and decapsulation is happening at the data path. And as I've mentioned earlier, the NVDS in case of KVM is based on a variant of Open vSwitch, which is portable and can be used in different flavors of hypervisors based on Linux. So what we have done in the recent releases, like from the NSX T2.4 release, earlier we used to have, this controller cluster, a separate 3 control cluster, 1 manager appliance. Then we came out with a 1 policy appliance, which is like intent driven configuration, where you say this is what you want, like these are the number of rules, and then they keep getting pushed to all the relevant nodes that are getting added in future or required right now. So we combined all of this into a 1 single unified appliance, so that there are less number of deployments, and you can basically have less overhead of managing so many virtual appliances in your environment. It's just now three VMs, which run the controller and manager combined. They are different services running within the same appliance, and you don't need to consider how much resources, CPU, memory, and disk would be required for so many appliances. So we just reduce the number of appliances. So the same architecture that we discussed, you can think of it, this is basically a 1 single appliance. Instead of just 1 appliance, we have now 3 appliances they are running, and 3 controller, but there are only 3 VMs. Each VM is running an instance of manager and a controller. This helps, the scale out, and in case of failover, you have more redundancy. So now I'll give you an example of an end-to-end configuration, like how you configure something from the NSX manager and how it goes from controller to the VM. Like this is an example where you see you create a logical switch from the NSX manager. It saves that information in the database first before actually creating a logical switch. Then you're saying create a logical port on that switch, and then attach a particular VM to that particular port that you have just created on that logical switch. So all this information gets into the NSX manager database first. This is how in your topology looks like, that there's a VM which is connected to a port, which is a part of a logical switch. So at this state, it is just a desired configuration. It is just that how you want it to be. It is showing to you, but it is still not realized. However, the whole process is very fast. And then the configuration is pushed to the NSX controllers, which then, instructs the host where this VM is there, that create a logical switch, create a port, attach the VM with that particular port. And then the same way this information propagates back from the management plane agents running on the transport nodes back to the controller cluster that yes, this information is, the VM is connected, and we can update the, switching table, and the same information helps in drawing out the whole topology. So now I just want to give you an example of a standard 3-tier deployment. When we talk about standard in any, most of the applications are 3-tier applications where you have a web segment, you have an application segment, and you have a DB segment. They are all connected to a router, which we call a tier 1 router, which in then connected to a router called a tier 0 router. So on the tier 1 router, you could running services like load balancing, like, it's a web form, like think of an Amazon.com. They're not running just one server. There are so many servers, but they are behind the load balancer. There could be, a NATing happening so that the real IPs of the DB segment or any VMs is not exposed to the outside world. There is a firewall in between tier 1 and tier 0. And the tier 0 router is the one which connects you to the outside world, or you can call it as a provider, or the router which is connected to the internet service provider. And then there are different segments or the logical switches which have different NIC ports, and the VMs are connected to those logical switches. And since we have a distributed firewall, there's a firewall running at each and every NIC. So there's a lot of configuration in this standard 3-tier, right? But with NSXT, we have a policy API or a policy layer. You can go back and refer to the documentation. I'll share the links where you can, patch the whole configuration in a single, punch in the whole configuration in a single API call. You just push all your desired configuration, and then it goes and starts punching tier 0, tier 1 segments, VMs, and if there is any failure, you see the alarms that something could not be configured or could not be pushed correctly, and then you can just go and fix that part. But the whole configuration can be done in just one simple, one single API. Now talking about NSX V and T, there's a lot of people coming out. Oh, we have NSXV, what is new in NSXT, why we should go about NSXT, what's the difference? At a very high level, you can say, NSXV is a solution which is tightly coupled to the vSphere environment. And NSXT is our new solution which can work on multiple environments. It can work on vSphere environment and we are adding all the new functionality and the feature sets to the NSXT going forward. We still support NSXV, but there are architecturally different advantages for all the new deployments to stick to NSXT. But having said that, you can see that in NSXV, the NSX manager was tied to a single vCenter, and in case of NSXT, you can connect to 16 vCenter. But if you are running a vSphere shop and you just need one NSX manager and you have vCenter, you are perfectly fine if you're using NSXV. This is more of a discussion based on what's the need, whether you have a greenfield deployment or you have an existing NSX deployment. So it all depends upon how you are using and what are your use cases for the NSX and what you want to achieve out of it. But both can provide routing, firewall, switching, and both have different way of support of different. The cloud support and the container support is where is NSXT, and is more forward looking and getting all the new features. But what if you have NSXV already deployed, and what are your options? How can VMware help there? So there are basically could be three scenarios there. One is you have one deployment which is of NSXV, but you want a new deployment which is based on NSXT, and there is no urgent need to consolidate. It's just like you have two different houses and everything works fine. We provide support for both of that. Or you have an existing house, but you want to remodel it and take it to new feature sets and everything new on the new architecture. So you use our in-place migration tools, which we have migration tools from migrating from NSXV to T. You can use that and migrate from one version to the other. Or you plan to migrate eventually, not right now. So you're putting your new workloads on NSXT. There are existing workloads on NSXV, which you plan to move to one. And then there are solutions like NSX Hybrid Connect and cloud management, where you can migrate your old workloads to the cloud and use NSXT to manage everything together. So all these combinations are there. Overall, looking at the high level portfolio for NSX, it consists of network insights. We realize automation. So there's a security, cloud, public cloud workloads, NSX intelligence, basically, which is an analytic tool. And Ujjwal is the one who is working on NSX intelligence. And if we get some time in the end, he'll probably talk about it in a high level summary, which basically gives you the guidance on how you should configure and define your security policy and what needs to be done. We have also added support for IDS in NSXT3 release, and the IPS is already in progress. There's NSX Advanced Load Balancer, NSX Service Mesh, and Hybrid Connect. But when we talk about NSXT, this is the fourth thing that we talk about that comes under the one umbrella of NSXT. But this is the whole NSX suite, or you can say VMware product suite, that you put together to manage your network and security framework, and you can use automation tools to make it more and deploy it as how you want it. So now I'll talk about what are the key new features in NSXT 3.0. The first set is the clouds. We are now going ahead full-blown support with the cloud environment, where we are adding support for the federation. Federation is nothing where you can configure your multiple or manage your multiple deployments from a central console, and it supports different types of either on-prem data centers or NSX cloud, and VMC on AWS is something we are going to support in future with federation. And in Cloud Scale Net, basically we are adding support for cloud, the government clouds based on AWS and Azure. We are adding support for L3 EVPN multivariate routing, which is used in case of telco environments. And you can chain, different services, like first the packet goes to this firewall, and then it goes to a different firewall. You can chain to achieve different security use cases. Then there is a security. We are adding more support for there is already distributed firewall, edge firewall, URL load, and FQDN and application level detection. But we are adding support for IDS, NSX intelligence, and even for the physical workloads based on Windows 2016. And then networking for modern apps. As a company, as a VMware as a whole, we are investing, a lot towards making containers as a first-class citizen. You can see that you might have heard about the Project Pacific and Tanzu. So basically in vSphere now, container is a first-class citizen, and NSXT provides rich set of networking capabilities like switching, routing, and load balancing. We integrate with Kubernetes to help you configure your security policies and provide namespace isolation. It even integrates with the cluster API so that customers can create load balancers and publish application outside of the cluster. And then you can use different interfaces like VMware Cloud Foundation, Project Pacific, and Kubernetes to integrate. And then on the operation side, we are adding support for a converged VDS. We'll talk about it probably in the next or some other webinar. And we're adding support, multiple alarms and SNMP traps. OpenStack plugin is getting updated. Yeah, you can use Terraform and Ansible modules also to configure NSX. So we're making it more easy for the DevOps folks also. So there are a lot of features. I'm not going to talk about each and every one that we're going to add, but today what we're going to stick to is probably the NSX Federation. So I'll talk about that more. This all information is already available and I believe the recording will be shared. So I will not go point by point on all of this. So this is just a summary in like what we all are adding new in NSXT apart from what already is there. So before I jump into Federation, I would like you to show a demo. So you all can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see. Sorry.
Okay, thanks. So I'm logging to NSX Manager right now. So if there is any delay, please understand that I'm working remotely and then I'm logging via VPN to my office, and then the data center is in somewhere in US. So if there is some delay, please ignore that. So this is how the NSX Manager dashboard looks like. It gives an overview. You know, I talked about the tier 0 gateways, tier 1 gateways, segments, and it's kind of giving me a one-step summary of what all is configured in my environment. Like there are these many number of firewall rules, no NAT rules, no load balancers, number of virtual machines, number of groups, NS groups, how many edge nodes, and number of NSX management node. As I told you, you know, it's recommended to deploy 3 node clusters. Since I have just 1 node, it's giving me a warning that I should deploy more nodes. But anyways, just let me give you an overview of how the networking looks, and then we'll go back to our discussion. So on the network topology, I can see my topology, how the topology looks like. So it shows me there is a VPN, this is a switch, and this is a VM connected to it. And then this segment is connected to a tier 1 router, which is connected to a tier 0 router. It can show me the topology the way I want to see. I can configure my tier 0 routers and tier 1 gateways. And like I mentioned about, you know, everything once you initially configure is an intent. So this shows you once the configuration is pushed, right? And everything is fine, like it gets realized till data path, you see success here. If for some reasons, you know, this is not, the configuration is not pushed, the configuration is saved in NSX Manager, you will just see an alarm here that, oh, it has failed. And then you can find out the reason for that error. You can probably go and fix that problem and come back here, and you'll see that the status will change to in progress, or you will see the success that, you know, the configuration has got pushed down. So that's what I wanted to show you, that initially, whenever you create, like let me create a tier 0 demo, whether you want it in an active or active standby, you select the edge cluster where you want to deploy. And there are like set of additional settings, which I'll avoid just for now. And then it asks me, do you want to configure more? I said no. And then you say it is initially uninitialized, but when I click refresh, if there are no issues, it should show me success. Okay, I'll come back to the screen. Let's see. Yeah, so it is this configuration. You know, this router, if I go to my any transport node and give a API, get it by an API or a CLI command, I'll be able to see that configured on that transport node. Let's jump back to our discussion on the NSX Federation. So what is Federation? Federation is basically, you know, a capability that we are introducing in NSX to provide you centralized management and policy consistency, so that you don't have to configure the same configuration from different locations for using different managers. And right now, you know, when you're using a global manager, your locations or different sites could be based on on-prem data center, or a data center based on a public cloud, AWS or Azure, or it could be your site running on VMC, AWS. But for now, we just support on-prem data centers and public clouds. We are adding the support for VMC. But it makes you configuration, managing your configuration across on-prem and public cloud and service providers very easy. Like let's take an example. You know, let's say you have 3 locations: location 1, location 2, and up to location N, or a location 3. And on every location, you have a local manager, or you can say a cluster of local managers. There are 3 nodes, or it's a user choice to deploy just 1 node. However, VMware recommend deploying 3 node cluster for the manager and the controller. And then there is a global active manager, global standby manager in one of the location. And then you use the API or UI from the global manager to configure your configuration or across different locations. You don't have to, you know, manage it or go to each and every NSX deployment, and for the configuration, you can use just one global active manager to configure everything in the one go. And then this global manager syncs, or the global active manager cluster syncs the configuration with the standby global manager. What are the primary use cases? Basically, it's you know, you can have a security across your on-prem and clouds, consistent security. You know, there is a standard 3-tier template that DevOps team have defined. Whenever a new application developer comes in, they start deploying that application, and you know, DevOps team have defined, in this case, web VM can talk to DB VM cannot talk to application VM, and there are certain set of rules that only web VM can be accessed from the outside. So all these, there is a standard template of configuration that is there, and you don't want to configure it across everywhere and again and again. You want to just deploy it once and have this configuration consistent across all your data centers. So, and then it helps in your disaster recovery and avoidance. Or if you're using, you know, multiple data centers to pool your resources efficiently, you can use having a consistent policy across all of them. Let's look at all of these, you know, individually and talk more about that. Before we do that, you can see there in this example, there are 2 locations. Both are having workloads, which are test workloads, development workloads, and production workloads. You configure a security policy from a global manager, and it goes to both the sites, location 1 and location 2. You need not to manually replicate your configuration from one location, and you can view the configuration from one point, and you can even, you know, set the configuration. You just have to, if the VMs, you know, even migrate, you don't have to do it again. Like in case of disaster recovery, if that location 1 goes down and there is a disaster, the SRM can kick in the Datapath VM workload migration, and your active GM will start sending the configuration to the second site local manager, and your SRM workloads, SRM helps to migrate your workloads, and the configuration is there. You don't need to configure in case of disaster recovery. You have all the configuration as it is pushed again without any manual intervention. And admin can then probably kick the failover for active GM cluster to standby GM cluster, so that in future standby becomes active. Another use case is about, you know, where we talk about having, you have applications deployed across different data centers, and you are not using them in an active standby, you're just using them all as a pool of resources, and wherever the application can run. And since the applications are standard, they follow a standard policy. And in this case, if there is any one of the site or location goes down, you don't, it's just one, one less pool of resources available to you, but the configuration is same available and you can manage it all from the one location. Now let's look at the, architecture or the components of the federation. So what earlier you had were 3 appliances where local manager and control plane, they are combined into one appliance and they're running together. So there are 3 nodes on one location. Similarly, you deploy a one more appliance and then either using UI, or if you have already automated how to deploy NSX manager as a local manager, you can same way automate, because from the deployment perspective, this is the same appliance or an OVA that we provide is the same. This is not a separate OVA that you have to get. It's the same OVA. You just have to, while deploying, you have to configure a parameter that this is a global, you have to give a role of global manager, or you have to give a role of local manager. And if you can automate one, you can automate how to deploy global manager. So it's just one more appliance, but the deployment bits are the same. It's just which service is running after the deployment of that particular VM. So now let's zoom out. Like we talked about one location, what would happen in case of multiple locations? So you have vCenter and compute based on any kind of hypervisors. You have local manager clusters running at each location, and then you deploy a global manager cluster at one of the location. Let's call it location 1. And then you deploy a standby global manager cluster, and this is totally optional, and it is just for high availability. It is to deploy a standby manager cluster on any of the location. And now let's talk about how the communication flows from global manager to a local manager. So let's take an example where you want to send the configuration, which is you want to create a tier 0, tier 1, and then there is a segment attached, and you want to stretch it to 2 locations, location 1 and location 2. And now this, you configure it from a global manager UI or using the global manager API. It then immediately syncs the configuration with the global manager standby cluster, so that the standby knows what the configuration is and what needs to be persisted. And then it pushes the configuration to the desired locations. In this case, location 1 and location 2. It will not push any configuration to location 3 because this is this was not how, when you configured, you wanted to stretch it only to the 2 locations, or you can stretch it to the 3 locations or just 1 location. And now talk about LM to LM, from local manager to local manager. So there is certain cases, when like you have stretched your T0, T1, and then there is segment and there are VMs attached to the segment. Let's call them all the VM having tag Windows, okay? Or all the VM having a certain tag, or all the VMs belonging to a certain AD group or a certain users. So you want to group them together. But the VMs are spread across your 3 sites. It's not at one site. So you create a global group and say VMs having tag XYZ or VM having tag Windows. What happens is the group gets created, it gets synced to the standby manager and then get pushed to all the local manager. But what actually is that there are 3 VMs. VM1 is on site 1, VM2 is on site 2, and VM3 is on site 3. So they all are part of the same group, but they all are locally at each location. So now, but since the console is unified, these local managers use an async replicator to send the configuration to each other. So immediately, like within seconds or less than seconds, you'll be able to see the group from any node, but you will see the members across all the sites. You will see all the VMs part of that group, and you will see the location info side by them that these VMs are present on different locations. And then there is an API or a CLI available to see the status of this async replicator also. This is a UI. I'll probably skip this and go to the UI demo and show that. But before going there, thinking from the management perspective, when you have a global active manager and there are local managers, there is a one way, we recommend that you configure everything from global manager. Whether you just want to configure it just for the site one, you configure it from global manager, because then the global manager will know about it and it will push it to the local manager. But we don't stop you from configuring anything directly on the local manager. You can still open their UI or the API and configure something directly on them. But there is no configuration push from local manager to the global manager. So that configuration will remain local and will not be visible. So in case there are scenarios you want to have some configuration specifically just for the local site and want to manage it from there, you can do that. There is no restriction on that. But please remember that if this configuration will not be manageable from the global manager. So if you want, you can configure it and keep it specific to that location, so that at least you have one console from where you can manage everything. That's from the management perspective. So in summary, what are the benefits of NSX Federation? It's like you have consistent policy across your locations. There is a single pane of glass. You don't need to open different UIs from the global manager itself. You can select any of the local manager. I'll show you that in the UI. You have simplified disaster recovery architecture, and it makes it, the life of admin easier and simpler to manage. Let me show you the demo before, and we'll come back to the presentation again. So now I'm going to a different deployment, and it shows me that now I'm going to log into a NSX Global Manager. So I'll log in. Please excuse the delay because I'm connected remotely. So here you see this drop down is new into this. Rest of the UI is pretty much similar. That I can see there is a global manager which is running on London site, and there are 3 different sites: London, New York, and Paris. If I go to system, I can see that for the global manager, there are 3 different appliances, 3 nodes, all are in green. And there are 3 different locations, all have a cluster. They are all are, sync status, and then remote tunnel endpoint status. This remote tunnel endpoint is basically when the edge clusters form the Geneve tunnels among them. That is remote tunnel endpoint. And when I go to the networking, I see a summary similar to what I see on a local manager. So here, if you see, I have created tier 0 gateway 1, tier 0 for Paris, tier 0 for New York, and tier 0 for London. But what I have done, I have configured a tier 0 for London, New York, and Paris from global manager, so that I can view all my tier 0s from the same console. But if I just go to, and this tier 0, right now I can show you, the location is just London. For the London, there is just London. For New York, the location is just New York. For Paris, the location is just Paris. And for tier 0, this is spanned across all the 3 locations. Now, if I just choose to go to any of the local manager, I don't need to open its IP and log in from a different browser or a different browser tab. I can use the same console too. So here, if I go, I'll just see 2 tier 0s, right? Because one which is spanned across all the sites, and one which is specifically to London. And here I see this GM, this attribute helps me or anyone to know that this configuration is coming from a global manager. Similarly, if I create a tier 0 here, demo London, this one is I'm creating from local manager. So this will not show up on my global manager UI. This is specific and created, there's nobody stopping me to configure. So I've configured it. So it's immediately got success and realized. But this is a local. If I go back to my global manager, the count remains a 4. It won't show up. But if I add something from here, demo stretched. Okay, and I'll add all the locations here. I'll leave the rest of the routing, BGP, and other configuration. This wizard asks me that do I want to configure more options for the router? I say right now no, I just want this much. I just need stretch, demo stretch. And if I see status, it's in progress. And if I refresh, yeah, so this configuration has gone to all the sites. So if I now go to, let's say now I'll go to New York or maybe London first. So here now I see that demo stretch which I created from the global manager. And similarly, if I go to New York, I'll be able to see this. Yes, everything from global manager. The demo stretch that we just created, the tier 0, which is specific to this site, and another tier which is stretch across all the 3 sites. So there's a lot of configuration that we can do, and we can see the topology and everything. But for right now, I'll move ahead with our discussion. But you can configure everything from your global manager so that you have a single pane of glass, and you also have a control to configure everything from a specific location. And you can see your summary of location, that, and it can give you warning if there are some objects which are not synced and fully synced, and what is the cluster status, and all those information is available. Moving back to our slide. So we talked about the federation benefits and what a sigh of relief. I thought would be, I'll probably exceed the time limit, but I'm pretty much in limit. We have time for the question and answers. And but before we go to that, the summary of the security. We are believing in security is intrinsic. We want to secure at every touch point. Like there's a distributed firewall. Now the attacks are not limited just at the gateway or at the perimeter level. We always have internal threats, and we don't want a single point of failure. We have a distributed firewall. We have a gateway firewall. We do provide a guest introspection framework where the partners like Trend or Rapid7 and other who have deep capability into providing services like antivirus and malware, they can use our framework and provide you protection to your workloads in an agentless form and in a distributed form where you don't have to go and update antivirus and patches on each and every machine. There's a single appliance per host running, which is getting updated and is protecting all of your workloads on that particular appliance, and can avoid the traffic storms that occur, in the middle of the night when suddenly, antivirus update is coming and all the VMs just want to update the same thing. There's a lot of things in the security. So I just wanted to summarize what all is there and what's new. In NSX3 is that we have added support for IDS. We have added support for time-based firewall rules. Like there are certain rules which kicks in the evening, or there are certain rules which kicks in the morning from this time to this time. And we are adding more partners and service chaining there's a lot of enhancements going on in the tagging and the grouping mechanisms. And now we can, open up for the Q&A. And Nitin, if you think we have time, Gaurav wanted to summarize the IDS for 2 minutes, NSX intelligence for 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. Yeah.
In short, basically what we are trying is, giving you a coherent view wherever your workloads are, either in a VM form factor, container, public cloud, or a bare metal. We want to give you a consistent networking and security across your workloads, across your data centers environment. So I will skip this, and this is the different places where you can go and get more information. And to an extent, you have labs where you can try everything hands-on. And there are free training courses for NSX on Coursera and even on VMware Education. And if I'm not wrong, in this COVID times, we have probably made our professional training free for a certain time. And that's a great resource for all of us to learn a lot, which is otherwise probably cost a lot more. So Gaurav, you want to summarize about NSX intelligence, and then we can probably have Q&A.
Sure, Saurabh. Thank you very much. So NSX intelligence in a nutshell, actually, it's essentially is a distributed analytic engine, and it helps admin to get data center wide visibility. By visibility, I mean it helps you visualize graphically the NSXT components such as policy groups, virtual machines, and the network traffic flowing between these workloads. And that is the visualization part, and then it helps you generate recommendations for security policies. Basically, it assists you to implement microsegmentation at application level. In coming release, we are also going to provide features like anomaly detections, which basically are network detection and response. The NDR is what it is called. And we are also going to enhance the support for the more workloads, for example, bare metal servers and maybe containers, and provide more context of these workloads. So we have two solutions. One is we call it VRNI, Varni, and which is for the breadth and for supporting a lot of other virtual and physical traffic visualization. And NSX intelligence is essentially is for the depth. It gives you a lot of visibility and a lot of context. So yeah, that is what NSX intelligence is all about.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it, Saurabh.
Thanks, Gaurav.
Yeah.
So Saurabh, can we take some questions? We have some questions on the Q&A window which are not answered yet. So the first question is traffic shaping possible in NSXT?
Yes, we have some capabilities of QoS, and there are different routing and all the other teaming policies, and you can configure that. But to elaborate more, we need to understand what kind of policy you are looking forward to. But that's supported well.
Sure. Okay, and I had a question on IDS and IPS. So what is the overhead on the host when we enable IDS or IPS on the SXI host? What's the CPU and memory overhead? Do we have any benchmark for that?
Yes, that's one of the primary goal. So far, it is just another kernel module that's getting added, and we have a performance test where we measure how much it's impacting in the data. So the impact is like close to 1 to 2% only.
Okay. So Ram Kumar has a question. In current slide, they are configuring through global manager and is replicating in different locations. Okay, so that's the whole idea of global manager, right? You can push the configuration across different locations.
Yes. Exactly. That's the point. You can use your local manager to configure, but is giving you a centralized console or a point to configure security, networking, and security policies. Like you want to create a tier 0, You want to stretch it across 3 locations. Instead of going it individually, creating one at each, you can configure one which stretches across all 3.
Okay. So do we also maintain version control in this if we are pushing any configuration from the global manager to all the local managers? So in case if you have to revert back to the old
It's maintained internally. It's maintained internally. So for the end user, there's only one configuration. And if there is a change, that gets pushed. And if there is some issues where you did some configuration change and it's not getting realized, there's harm that shows up that, because of this reason, it's not pushed.
Okay. So there's a question from Sarpreet. Can we prevent the configuration changes on local manager so that everyone is forced to use global manager? Can we override this?
Right now, there is no such switch. It is more or less based on how the end users want to. But I believe if there's a lot of customer demand on that is technically doable. And right now, also you can control it with the giving users a read-only permissions. You create a user with only read-only permissions, and then they have nothing they can do it on a local manager.
Okay. Paresh has a question. Who is the competitor of NSXT? Okay. Do you want to answer this?
Sorry?
Who is the competitor of NSXT?
I guess, Nitin, you are the best person to answer.
So in terms of Kubernetes world, I would say a lot of open source solutions like Calico, Flannel, but then every solution has different capabilities. NSXT has all the capabilities in it. So let's not answer this question here. We'll reach out to them separately for this. There was one question on Tanzu service mesh. Ujjwal answered that question. Is Tanzu service mesh same as NSXT service mesh? I think the answer is yes. Tanzu service mesh actually uses NSXT service mesh, right?
Yeah, so Tanzu is a bigger umbrella, so there are many things come under it, yes.
Okay. That's it. We have answered the other questions. So I will try and unmute everyone if somebody wants to ask the question directly.
Sure.
I think you will have an option to unmute yourself, or if somebody has a question, can you raise your hand so that I can unmute you from here? If you want to ask the question directly to Saurabh or Gaurav. Okay, I don't see any question. Okay, Saurabh, we don't have any more questions, so I think we are good. Thank you very much for this great session. Thank you, Ujjwal, for answering the questions on the Q&A. And thank you all for attending the session, and do reach out to your TAMs to get the recording and the presentation, deck of this presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye.